We're here. We did it. We started. Hyatt, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Talking in Ovals podcast. It is a podcast where if you're a track nerd, if you are a running enthusiast, hell, if you just like to jog a little bit, this is the show for you. This is a show where myself, Alex Cuesta, and my buddy, he was a coach of mine, taught me a good amount of things, a very good coach, teacher, Dave Hyatt. Dave, what's up, bro?
Not much, Alex. This is something that you and I have been talking about for quite some time, and it's just awesome to actually see it come to fruition.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time because both you and I, we thoroughly enjoy talking track. We talk sports all the time. We're always messaging each other already. We're both suffering Brooklyn Nets fans. We're Yankees fans on the roller coaster. But on top of that, we're one of the rare people, I think, that actually go to each other like, did you see this race? Did you see that? Did you see this time? And we are constantly talking about that. So you actually made the suggestion. You're like, I would love to do this as a podcast. And I was like, hey, let's do it. I have the the ability to create my podcast with my account on Spreaker and everything. And I said, let's just do it. So we're going to have some fun here. So for anybody tuning in, this is the first episode. So first off, anybody that doesn't know who I am, I have been making podcasts now for about 6 years. I've had Coach Hyatt on a show before, on one of my shows on Sports Opinions. So that is me. I'm Alex Cuesta. Like I said about Coach, he's coached many years in track and field. He was a runner. We're both runners in Jersey. We're both collegiate runners, both fell in love with the sport, and we just want to talk about it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to touch on everything track. I feel like we're both going to get a little more versed in the field area because me and Coach are more running oriented. So we have to get a little more versed. So jumpers, throwers, I'm sorry ahead of time. We will get better. We will mention you more. But we
certainly welcome on, guys. Anybody who wants to pop on and educate us is a blessing. I know me personally, I would love to learn more about all the ins and outs of every single field event.
And speaking of hopping on, that's a good segue because we will be having guests on. I have had past guests in the running, in the jumping fields on my other shows. And luckily for me, all but one so far have agreed to come back on and do this show with us. So I feel blessed that they want to come back on and actually want to talk to me again because it's rare that people want to continue to talk to me. But they agreed to come back on. So we're going to have interviews. We're going to cover track meets. We're going to cover big marathons. And we're not just going to do the pros. That's going to be something I hope that sets us apart from a lot of other places. We're not just going to do the pros. We're not just going to stick to college. We're also going to jump into some big high school meets and big high school times. And we're going to talk to just anybody that wants to run. We're going to talk about anyone that wants to start running. We'll maybe do a show on that. We'll do a bunch of different things that just have to do with running, with throwing, with jumping. And, it's going to be a really good time. So I just hope everyone jumps on this journey with us. If you're a tracky nerd or not, you might be able to learn something a little different about the most popular sport on the entire planet. So I'm just really pumped for this. I don't know about you. I'm just pumped to get going. We already have some topics to talk about today. So do you want to jump right in?
Yeah.
All right. So we're not going to get specific on the analytics today. It's the first episode. We're just kind of having a cup of tea. We're saying hello. We're introducing ourselves a little. I'm rambling a little bit. I talked with Hyatt a little before, and he's like, hey, you kind of, I'm going to take the reins for a little. You've been doing this for a while. Don't worry, everybody. Hyatt will come out of his shell. I will get him to do it. We will get him more. But I am the rambler. I've been doing this for almost 6 years, so I do have a little bit more experience. Very little success, but experience is there. But we're going to jump on, and we just want to talk. I mentioned that this is the most popular sport on the planet, running, athletics in general. And it's starting to peak out because for many years, going back to maybe, I think it started when I was maybe late in high school or early in college, early 2000s, the Diamond League appeared. And the Diamond League was a pretty big deal for runners because for the longest time, pros were sponsored by certain running teams. And then they just went to random invites that popped up. Some of them were more prestige, some of them were less prestige. And they raced for whatever prize money was set there. And then they went back to selling shoes, because that's honestly what most pros do. They just go and sell shoes. Diamond League pops up. They give substantial sums for winning each meet and competing in each meet. At the end of it, the prize at the end of the tunnel for being the main winner with the most Diamond League points is $1 million. Great by running standards, paupers by all other pro standards for the most part. So that pops up. Lately, we discussed that today is August 8th, and we were honestly going to talk a little bit about the Diamond League event that just went on in Poland. But there was another meet that popped up today, the Continental Tour, the World Athletics Continental Tour, which I completely forgot about. That came on. A lot of fast pros run there. Another outlet for pros to run. And then on top of that, you have the American Track League, ATL, which is kind of cool. But the American Track League, which is a lot of Americans specifically. Anyone can run in the American Track League, but it's specifically a good venue and a good outlet for a lot of Americans. And what they're trying to do differently, which is different than any other meet I've seen, is they're trying to make it a party atmosphere while running fast. And there are some fast times run at these events. So those are the three big ones. We had Tracktown USA years ago, which kind of made teams compete against each other, which I love, but didn't get popular. But Hyatt, what do you have to say about kind of all of these individuals trying it? Obviously, there's money to be made because Diamond League has been going for a little while.
Yeah.
World Athletics is very popular. I hope the American Track League can stay going. What do you think? What does this say for the world of athletics right now?
I think it definitely shows that there's more interest now than maybe there has been in the past. And we could attribute that to maybe the fact that there's more, streaming services, and there's just more places where you can actually find these events. I remember growing up in high school, you couldn't find a track meet on television that was not the Olympics. You couldn't even find the World Championships. So I think the one that intrigues me the most is the ATL, just because it's a chance for American athletes to actually run in America and not have to travel over to Europe. So, and they have them at like smaller colleges or at high schools, and it's just great. And like I was watching one on ESPN, and they had a barbecue, they had a DJ. Just it was a great atmosphere, and I hope that over time that will make different athletes and want to actually go there. I'm sure that the pay is not as prominent as in Diamond League, but that one kind of gives me the most hope that here in the United States that we can actually have a league that athletes can just stay home for.
My issue with all these leagues, and they're great, and you get to see fast times at this Continental event just today. Sydney McLaughlin, world record holder in the 400-meter hurdles, destroyed the competition again and ran 51 seconds again. And she's just an absolute freak monster representing New Jersey out there. But my problem is, outside of these gigantic runners, outside of your Sydney McLaughlins, outside of your Usain Bolts when they were there, Athing Mu is a worldwide sensation at this point. Outside of them competing, you don't know these events are going on. You have to be checking it. If you're an avid fan, you have to be proactive and check it. And that's not the way to sustain anything. The Diamond League is more popular around the world because around the world, they like track. They really enjoy track around the world, especially in your European nations and in Africa. They love their track, but we don't promote it here in America. So leagues like the ATL, I think, are great in concept. Awesome that it's on ESPN, but who knew it was going on? That's the issue. Who knew it was going on unless you are proactively looking, unless you're checking Let's Run, Flow Track, Mile Split every single day to look for what event that is going on. You didn't know that these things were on. And that's, I guess, my biggest issue with all of it. No one's going to make real money. They're not going to be able to pay athletes anything unless they're getting eyes on television. So I don't know if there is a way right now to solve it because they don't push athletes. We have no real teams besides brands, and the brands don't push it because they're not making much money either. It's such a vicious circle, the world of athletics right now.
Right. Well, like you would hope that after that massive World Championships, which was held here in the United States, that would help to promote, but I've seen it kind of in the past. It kind of reminds me of when the U.S. women's soccer team first won the World Cup with Brandy Chastain and Mayhem. They're like, all right, this is great. We're going to have all these women's soccer leagues. And a lot of them went defunct. I see that could happen with track as well, because people outside of the Olympics or the World Championships, they just don't seem to have that passion all year round that your diehard track and field fans have. And that is one concern. And also having the number of these meets and is just problematic, because you have different people going to different meets, and you rarely see the top talent run against other top talent. So those are just a few things that I think can be cleaned up. And then after that, but I do think that this World Championships can definitely be a huge factor in growing the sport and making it more popular here in the United States.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I feel like another issue is there's so many international athletes, and that's not to be, bigoted in any way. We don't like to pay attention unless it's majority American. Like, that's just kind of how it works. Like, baseball has a lot of international athletes, but it's a majority American sport. Basketball has a lot of international, majority American. So you can connect to the kid that came out of a town 6 towns over from you and made it to the league. There is no main league. The American Track League has that chance to be that league, but they need to be able to constantly pull or maybe get contracts with your Noah Lyles, your Arian Knightheads, your Sydney McLaughlins, even your Raven Rogers, and people that aren't necessarily, they don't have to necessarily be the world champions. They need to get them. But that's a problem with some of these leagues. We're all free agents in running. You can run whatever meet you want as long as your team is behind you. And that's a problem, because the American Track League, they can't promise, they can't promote having Bryce Hoppel running the 800 every single meet, which, if you're a running fan, you know who Bryce Hoppel is, or Clayton Murphy definitely competing in every meet, or Robbie Andrews, Matty Centrowitz, barring his injury. Hope Matt gets healthy soon with his surgery. He had it right before Worlds. But that's a huge problem, I feel like, especially for Americans, because we have the attention span of squirrels. And, the World Championships is great. We saw Americans dominate, absolutely dominate, the most medals ever by any country in the history of the World Championships, by far, America. But at the same time, then they go to Diamond League in Poland, and then they hold the ATL, and a few of the reserves for the 4x1 and 4x4 are competing in opens, but you're not getting the big names. Michael Norman's not there. Even, Michael Cherry's not there. Kenny Bednarik's not there. These are all big names, all world stage names. And again, these people aren't going there. And that's a problem for any league. So I feel like anyone with a big pocket that loves running in America, you got to start doing something where you contract these athletes to compete in your league. They can go compete wherever they want, but they have to compete in your events when they're there. That would be huge. It's kind of what they do in boxing to prevent people, the WBA, the WBO. Even, golf's going through this right now. The PGA is going through this issue because they've been the big dogs. You get your PGA card, you compete in PGA events, you fall into their rankings, you play their world championships. The LIV comes around, and now PGA is kind of scrambling. They lost a quarter of their best players to this new league, and they're trying to figure out what to do. Track doesn't have that problem, and we would love to have that freaking problem. That's the thing. No one's contract, and that to me would solve a lot of issues. If someone with the big pocket can say, hey, here's a contract, $2 million to come and compete at all my meets. Here's 10 meets you have to compete in my league. And that would solve so many issues, because then you can promote them. Track can't promote anybody right now. That's the problem.
I think that would be an amazing idea. I don't know how it's feasible, because then you also have to get in, well, this person's sponsored by Nike, this person's sponsored by Reebok or ASICS or Brooks. So you would have to also get all of the sponsors to agree that that's okay, because that's, a problem that we have 4x1 teams is they don't get to practice handoffs because this person, is with Nike, this person is with Adidas, and they don't ever have that time to mesh. So I feel like it's something that is amazing in theory, and I absolutely love it. It's just a matter of getting all of everything to just kind of coexist and to mesh But we'll see. I mean, there are definitely people out there who have money to make it happen. And I do think it would be an absolute amazing thing for this wonderful sport. It's just a matter of trying to figure out the logistics and everything else that's involved in it.
Yeah, that's why Tracktown USA had the right idea when they did it with the 4 teams, because you came there every meet, you knew who you were seeing. They could promote these athletes. They weren't household names, so I definitely doomed them because they had a few really good athletes, but they weren't necessarily household names. So they had the right idea, but again, you need to have somebody that's going to be able to lock up a thing, Mo. It's going to be able to lock up Ajay Wilson. That's going to be able to, it doesn't necessarily even have to be internationals. You don't have to go get, what's his name? The pole vaulter that set the record at Worlds. Armand, I forget his last name.
It's Duplantis.
Armand. Yeah, you don't have to go get Duplantis, but if you can go get Nielsen, who finished second to him at Worlds and pole vaulted really well to win the American Nationals, you have somebody to promote. I don't know. That's just, and I feel like that's an advantage college has. College is bigger because you have these guys running for you for 4 years. So for 4 years, you can promote. Paul Chelimo was huge. When Chelimo was running, and what was he at? NAU? Was he at Northern Arizona?
I believe so, yeah.
Northern Arizona's tradition is amazing now.
They are.
Became such a great school, but they can promote their guys. They can promote their women. You know who's coming in the pipe for 4 years. You have 4 years of free pub with these individuals.
Oregon promoted Edric Cheserek brilliantly.
Yeah.
And you knew that if Oregon was at a meet, you were going to see Edward run. And I'm like, I'm going to turn on this meet because I love watching Ches run.
Yeah, exactly. So they got to figure something out because that's the only way that track, they have to follow the mold of your NASCARs and your other big races where even horse racing, because they're similar, anything that has to do with racing, it has to fall under one league. And they have to force these individuals, even if they have a uniform sponsor, if Nike makes a freaking league and they start paying athletes, and it's like, I don't care if you're sponsored by Brooks, you are now running in Nike gear. That's going to be up to the athlete whether or not to, I guess, sell out. A lot of runners will look at it as selling out. But go make some damn money and let's get a real league. There's one other thing I want to bring up because I noticed it in a few meets that I've been looking at results-wise. Africa is on its way to clearly dominating most of the running. I have now seen more Ethiopian, Kenyan, Ghanaian men and women in 400-meter finals than I ever have. And I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if they dropped down into the 8 and, out before a thing, Ajay, Raven kind of burst onto the scene. We were seeing more Kenyan, Ethiopian, especially women winning in the 800. Are we all screwed? If Africa decides to get serious and is like, we have enough depth that want to do the distance, why don't we find individuals that have some speed and really start training them in the shorter stuff hard? We might be screwed all around.
I think a huge part of that is in those countries, you don't have a million sports. So you're usually playing soccer or you're running. So there's a lot more people who choose that path. I know, I'm sure you in high school, or growing up, you did probably 8 or 9 different sports, just like everyone else. So in those countries, it's definitely way more specialized into running. And of course that they have the talent. I mean, if you watch someone close a 5,000 meter in sub 4 minutes, you're like, hey, I'm sure he can run an 800 pretty damn fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that on the side. We'll look more into it as we start to analyze more meets. Hopefully we're going to start with guests next week. I'm hoping to get somebody to jump on. And, even with the guests, I want to talk some meet stuff too, because I want to say, if not all, most of our guests are also fans of the sports. So we should be able to have some good fun. This was just a nice little snippet, I think. I think that's a nice little snippet into what they would hear. Right, Coach?
Absolutely.
All right. So this is just a nice little snippet onto what you'll hear on Talking to Nobles. We're going to have more to talk about. We're going to really break down some meets. We're going to pick out meets. If you don't hear a meet that you want us to talk about, we're sorry. We can't talk about everything going on in the world of running. It is absolutely massive. Every single week there's something going on. It never takes a break. So we're going to, if we have a college show, we're going to talk about a big college meet. pro show, pro meet, high school meet. We're not going to be able to cover it all, but we will try to cover it as well as we can and give you great analysis and great guests. Last thing I want to throw in there before we jump out. One thing I want to start doing for anyone that listens, if you're a runner and you compete and you race, tell us your PR. Send it to us. That PR that you did in that race. If you had a PR, I don't care how fast or how slow it is, or you have your son or daughter who competes in middle school, high school track, college, and they have a PR and you want to tell everybody about it, send it to us. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you are a middle-aged individual, never ran and just broke 30 for a 5K in the first time. That's awesome. Sub 10 each mile is fantastic. Most humans cannot run a sub 10 mile. That is just factual. So if you want to send that out to us, tell us. If your daughter just broke 2 minutes in the 800 for the first time in college, hell yes, tell us. We're probably talking about her anyway. But send us your PR. That's the thing I want to do weekly. Send us your PR. I'm hoping we can get a bunch and that we can end each show giving shout outs to individuals that are running and beating themselves, because the best part of track and field that I have found, especially in the distance, sprints, much more natural. They work their ass off, but sprinters are born sprinters. Distance runners can be made. The best thing about being a distance runner is whether or not you finish first or last, if you gave it your all, you felt the same exact pain, which is why there's so much respect up and down the line for all those runners. So everybody, please send us in your PR. Hyatt, are you competing anytime soon?
That is a negative as of now. I have to work on that. That is one of my goals for this next coming fall. I would like to definitely start getting out there, dust off the old shoes, and I will be one of those people who will be glad to break 10 minutes per mile for 1 mile after some training. But I also want to talk about that, like ways that if you are an older person and you don't run anymore and you've gotten heavier, or what are some ways that you can realistically get yourself back to good fitness and not try to mentally compare yourself to how you used to run? Because whenever I would start running again, that would be one of the hardest things is, well, I used to be able to run 10 miles in under 6 minutes a mile. So how do you just accept that I'm not that person? So, there's so many different things that we can broach, and it's just going to be a blast.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. Like I said, we'll do tutorial episodes on how I haven't ran in 2 years. I've been trying to rehab since my meniscus surgery. It hasn't been the same. I am in the process of rehabbing, and it doesn't include running. It will eventually. I will compete again, and I'll talk about my slow times as well. We're going to be the slowest hosts ever for a track podcast, and I can't wait. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed listening to this. I hope you will come back, because I hope you love track as much as we do, and we will talk about it. Oh, and the PRs also count for you throwers and jumpers. We're not leaving you out. I will not leave you people out. Give it all to us. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see you on every single episode. Hopefully, we're going to be doing this for a good long time, because we both love track and track doesn't end. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, guys.
So long, everybody.